Lovely people. Yes, coming back at you. Let's take the ears out. I'm not sure needed. It's your weekend live stream from the crypto sniper, the market sniper, and the great reset sniper. Yep, it's me. Let's get that camera angle right. How are you guys doing? Saturday. Got a couple of good stories to run past you today in terms of our wonderful world that we're in. Something about retail traders. Huge surge in retail traders as trapped men in their man caves are in lockdown, not making income, seek to express their views on the direction of the global economy and markets, open unheralded amounts of new retail trading accounts, unheralded amounts, and face, wait for it, general devastation. More on that in a moment. What else are we going to be discussing? Johan Rupert, the second most wealthy clan family member in Southern Africa, to the Oppenheimers, which you can consider as sort of offspring Rothschild's family, controlling the gold, diamond industries, etc. So second richest to that was his father started the Rembrandt, had the Rembrandt tobacco brands in Southern Africa, went into luxury goods. He has joined the great reset calling of the epic scale of pivot that we will be taking as we come out of this melodrama that is our great reset. I'm not happy with that camera angle, actually, so just a little bit of fiddling. And he says, and I quote from Reading Devices, current quote, and this is from Financial Magnets, Financial News magazine that he was interviewed recently from. Johan Rupert says, "This isn't just a pause, it's an entire reset of our economic system. Something we have been saying is required and has been building and growing and being needed, and that this is the great one. As the COVID-19 pandemic spreads, business leaders are painting a grim picture of our economic future. Rupert, 69, is surviving the coronavirus lockdown, shacked up with his extended family in Graaf-Reinet, often known as the Stellenbosch Mafia, the wine growers down there, the town where his father Anton was born. More on that. Johan Rupert, multi-billionaire in dollar terms, and also awarded a special award by the Henry Kissinger of Kissinger Associates. The nature of that award is not entirely clear to me, and Kissinger's legitimacy to be handing out certain rewards is also not entirely clear to me, but nonetheless, make of that what you will. We will come back to that point as well. So we've got retail trader surge and blow up. We have Johan Rupert. What else are we talking about with you today? Well, there are prospects for gold, Bitcoin, and then an interesting blog, a very interesting blog that I will touch upon by the CEO of the derivative platform, the highly liquid derived market trading platform BitMEX on Bitcoin, Arthur Hayes, his blog post where he refers to how he is positioned currently and some interesting facts, and I think quite candid and quite a valid read. And given that it is a worthwhile read, I will post now that link for all you hyperactive, multitasking heroes to jump on. And then, of course, let me also just say and remind you, 206 of you on here. It makes it more powerful. It makes it more worthwhile if we get the numbers up. We have 25% of you that have given a like. I particularly thank you. It's already jumped to 60. That was amazing. Thank you for supporting us. You just give the social score, it bumps us up, and it helps us proliferate the message, which improves your chances of like-minded people forming scale, community, and organizing. In other words, doing one really simple thing, such as sharing to semi-awake people to help them tip them the whole way awake, or just boosting the fact that we can get a greater catchment, and some of them might be people in your area that you'll be doing community safety with and sharing duties and barter trade with for real organic greens and veg in times to come. And there's a third topic that I'm going to bring in fact, a fourth, because we've got retail traders, we've got Johan Rupert's reset call, and we have Arthur Hayes of BitMEX describing gold and Bitcoin, and a very interesting call on the Korean won. How interesting it is. We were the first, we called it the trade of the decade. We called it our January 2019 trade of the decade. We picked out a multi-year HVF on the USD Korean won. We said quite potentially that given the decade rollout, the prominent crypto, which for now is Bitcoin, to the Korean won will be one of the greatest trades. And then we saw interesting trade comment from Arthur Hayes, apart from his comments in Bitcoin, as you will see in that link. So my fourth point from those three that I will be talking about, and why I suggest liking this and sharing it to many, is that we're going to need scale to survive. There is, like crypto has a fork where two parties decide they are no longer tenable to coexist together. Humanity itself is facing a fork. You are either compliant, obedient, and will go with whatever the Gates and that other toutsy medical new created for you heroes, sons of eugenicists that shook hands with David Rockefeller and were close compatriots with him, whatever they prescribe for you in terms of vaccine solutions, when in fact we're finding out that simple malaria drugs that protect your red blood cells' ability to carry oxygen, high dosages of vitamin C can more than handle most of what is being offered in COVID-19. These people will tell you the only solution is in fact their vaccine and digital certification thereof. You will be taking a left turn or a right turn, gentlemen. You will be Bitcoin or you will be Bitcoin Cash. You will be Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, or you will be BAB. These forks are occurring like you have on blockchain. It is a fork of humanity. And you will decide whether you will be. And most of the passives, non-critical thinkers and what's the word? I would almost want to say sub-intellects that have never stopped to think how and why so many coincidences have occurred, will passively fork. In other words, the default route is to stay in the mainstream. The active fork, that's going to require an active made decision, committed to decision, an absolute defantasization of how easy it will be to adhere to that decision is coming. And the scale of the people that go with you on the fork may well come down to how many people you wake up. And the quality of life, because scale, I'm afraid, might is right, as we see in the military industrial complex and America, the scale is critical. We can't all be farmers, we can't all be hunters, we can't all be gamekeepers, we can't all be security, we can't all be everything. The ability to scale and to establish a second way is determined by the number of people that understand the scale and vastness of this abattoir trap that is being set. You actively have to break out of this tunnel that is freight training you towards passively accepting the solutions that will be proposed from the problems and the subsequent reactions to current events. This is an escalation, and actually, during these major escalations, the control structure is vulnerable, is greatly vulnerable. A lot of normal people that think conspiracy theory is a nutcase job, not recognizing that it was a phraseology and term that was absolutely poisoned and is actually just simple English, are starting to question the convenience of current events and whether there may possibly be something in the orchestration. We need these able-bodied, sensible people to turn, and we need them in the left fork that stakes out of the current flow of the river into the precipice and over the cliff face, that the rest of the lemmings are passively taking. And we need to save as many people as we can. And that is done by hitting the like button, by hitting the share button and getting as many people on and thinking about and beginning a journey where a lot of what will transpire is going to give their game away, and we'll see a lot of people waking up. We need that desperately, and we need the scale that suggests. You are doing that by this. If you want to support this channel and what we do, just buy yourself a coffee mug, buy yourself a premium t-shirt, or buy yourself a cheap and nasty t-shirt. If you want to spend low amount of money, those are all in the links below. It's about the reset sniper, it's about the market sniper, it's about the crypto sniper. According to our three-pronged process, Arthur Hayes is probably a brother in arms. He sees this Plandemic in the blog post that I've referred and shared the link. Let me share it again for any late joiners. This is his blog post. In fact, let me say, I suggest following him, getting his RSS feed and contemplating it. I think it's quite an honest. He's spoken in pretty street terms. He's not gone all excessive academic, but he's dealing with smart concepts. Couple of the interesting things that he says. Let's pick them out with you right now, and let's deal with Arthur. So he says the following. Shazam, you snap a finger, and for now, this great disaster, this Plandemic disappears. Of course, it won't fully disappear. Of course, certain things will be retained. Of course, there'll be social distancing still. Of course, you'll be told probably to wear a mask. But let's just say, virtually, you're back in January, which is better than anyone could possibly hope for. Do you trust your government to put your health and safety first? Do you trust the government to tell you the truth in a timely manner? Are you going to accept all the statistics that they're going to provide to you? Do you trust the media to speak the truth? Will you wash your hands once an hour? Will you do all of these things? Here is some of the fictions that he says will come under the spotlight more harshly than they have ever come under the spotlight. Government fiat. Okay, AKA he's talking about the largest global one, the US dollar. Fiction plus violence. It's a fiction plus violence, he says. So the USD currently has value because in terms of contracts, legalese, law, and oppression that they have taken centuries to build and are now accelerating at an ever more rapid rate. They have the right to collect taxes from citizens that give them guaranteed future incomes that they can forward sell today, an income stream. And they can go so far at the barrel of a gun if necessary to do so. In other words, the violence of the US dollar, the petrodollar, and many other elements. Think of the violence that has been wrought in the Middle East in the name of maintaining the petrodollar and the great fiction that is coming. So first, we're going to see many loans blow up and disappear. Loans will blow up as they get written off to zero. Money will be destroyed. We saw the first element of that deflationary spike when we saw the stock market absolutely crap the bed. And as a result, we saw paper assets, and this is a fifth subplot. So we're going to do 5 topics today. We're looking at Arthur's blog post, but a 5th subplot that I will be tying in and I'm just going to put a little tag on it to refer back later. The paper gold price fell from beyond $1,700 all the way down to $1,450. The $18.90 silver price, knocking on the doors of 19s, fell all the way down into the $11 range. Yes, the paper gold and silver price. And I will come back to that one. Remind me, 5th topic parked right there. So we actually saw an immense stab of deflationary events, fear and dash for cash. That will be the initial move. Cash is king in a time of fear for now. However, it is the Pavlovian response. It's the counter response to eventually the hyperinflation. They are going to hyperinflate and buy everything. And on almost like a 6th point, the Fed's statement that they will even intervene in junk bond markets including buying HYG ETF. So ETFs with junk. They won't go into old junk and support old junk, but they will look into buying ETFs of junk debt. In other words, they are people taking your future tax money on real legit activity, up to 30, 35%. Who knows what your personal tax rates are? They're going to take it and buy something that was already toxic, useless, and underperforming and should have been allowed to die at the previous major economic reset, that has been kept afloat because it was high yield and there was so much cheap money being forced into the system. They're going to prevent the capitalistic fire, and this is why we do not have true capitalism. And everybody like AOC says how terrible capitalism is. Well, she's not experiencing capitalism. Capitalism is the fire that burns out the dead brush. The dead brush is not being allowed to be burned. This is controlled economy. This is government of everything. You have the internet of everything coming, and I can tell you that isn't going to be good news for your privacy, your quality of life, and your exposure to radiation. And you now have the government of everything coming. And definitely a 7th point that we'll be discussing today, that's not in your topic headline, a comment by Mr. Snowden recently, and in the heading of this live stream, how this entire Plandemic aside, which is all, in my view, exactly that, something that is entirely orchestrated. We were already tipping into a recession. They were already, gentlemen, in October, November, and December, bailing out the failing repo markets and the huge quadrillions of especially over-the-counter derivatives that are bleeding and murdering these overextended banks that were never dealt with from the previous depression. It was a depression, and you never had a recovery of any note. You had a fiat-induced splurge to paper over the cracks. Yes, the architecture of oppression is being rapidly assembled. As fast as China built that hospital, my friends, there is a framework being dropped around you right now. And this is why I say to you, share this video, get the likes. We need community, we need scale, because escalation of the agenda is in an absolute parabolic curve. And as Snowden says, this is the architecture of oppression hiding behind this COVID-19 pandemic. So that is my opening salvo, and I'm going to return to the blog post of Mr. Arthur Hayes and his derived market. By the way, many people don't might not like him. It's not an actual exchange where you trade Bitcoin. Many people don't understand how to deal with this, and leverage is a great killer. So let's return to the retail trader for a minute. Many retail traders will have gone onto BitMEX and been absolutely murdered. And then it's all a scam and he's a bastard. All he's done is he's a weapon salesman who sold you a Colt 45 with a hairline trigger, and he's handed it to a bunch of 5-year-olds and made you sign a document that says you're not a 5-year-old with a twitchy finger. And you've signed that document because you really wanted that shiny Colt, and then you've gone and shot the baby next to you's head off, and now you're in jail for murder and your life's barely begun. That's what's happened. In other words, most people are not sophisticated enough to cope with the scale of leverage that BitMEX offers. Most people do not have a template. In our core course program, we have said regularly that you have super hot money, medium hot money, cool money, and absolute cold storage. And when I talk about cold storage, I'm not talking about the crypto variety of cold storage. I'm talking about the risk profiles that you expose yourself to. So I moved a Bitcoin into BitMEX. I made 4.5 Bitcoin, and I moved a full 4 of that Bitcoin back out of that BitMEX account, and I put it in my medium hot. In other words, when you have super hot profits made very quickly off an early taken entry that we took on an upside HVF that we expected to have a fall out of a rising wedge very quickly, and we took shoot and scoot profits, and we're trading, we get that money the hell out there just to remove the temptation of thinking we have casino effect money. Because what ends up happening is when you don't take money out of super hot storage and put it in medium hot storage, and when you made profit in your medium hot exchange account, you don't take some of it into your basic HODL investment account that's either just sitting in unleveraged fiat or stable coin or Bitcoin, then you don't trickle down your risk profile from your hot gains. And what ends up happening is you keep scaling in your super hot, and you make one mistake, you can get 9 winners in a row. But as you scale upside and you're trading bigger and bigger and getting bigger endorphin hits, that one mistake in that BitMEX account will take everything away, even if you've just got 9 trades in a row right. So we do selective, certain scale entry, subject to the confidence, profit taxed all the way out and moved in. These are skill sets the retail trader needs to learn. And this is the article on the retail trading that I want to talk about. So let's go straight into this headline. Stuck at home, Reuters no less, by the way, my primary source of trustworthy, reliable information. The Rothschilds own personal news media. And of course, they own Bloomberg as well. He pissed in his pants just to go meet David Rockefeller and Jacob Rothschild with excitement, and wanted to tell his dead dad what a great moment it was for him. Stuck at home punters flock to financial betting and lose badly. Now, I actually think this is true. Yes, they do occasionally sow in a bit of truth to keep your confidence. So London, Reuters, the wild swings in stock currency and commodity prices in recent weeks are proving too tempting for thousands of stuck-at-home punters, convinced they know which way markets are heading as the coronavirus ravages economies. Now, I say in HVF method, the Hunt Volatility Funnel method, which is exactly what we do. It's the method component of our t-shirt that you'll be buying in the links below. And it has the little Nautilus shell, which implies wisdom and geometry in it. That if, as a trader, you don't early get to grips with the concept of volatility and make that volatility your friend, if you just start, you have defaulted with him as your biggest enemy, and he is the one that will eat you. And the thing that attracts the retail trader in is the volatility, and the thing that eats all of them is the volatility. Now, many of you will be going, yes, money management, sizing, and everything. Even with an accountant's prudence of small sizing and small scale, The scale of this volatility will destroy you. So yes, money management is the problem, but no one's going to trade 0.00001 pips because they truly understand or foresee the extent of the moves that has seen 30% collapses in equities and rebound days. As we warned before, the biggest bull single days and weeks occur in the biggest sell-offs and corrections. These are known as snapback reactional rallies and are part of all that goes down when the Fed, the fixer of all pains, shows up with their proliferate fiat model. And what we're actually seeing is we're seeing a situation where the reactions of the markets and people's attraction to the game is such that they can't help themselves, and like moths to a flame, they scorch themselves in the heat of the excitement and the markets. Don't forget, many of these guys are male. They're in the ages 30 to 50. They are part of the world that has access usually to finance. They're often the financial decision makers. They are disempowered. Men are taught that their value is associated to their ability to generate money. If you are an ordinary man and you are not Brad Pitt or an actor, your entire worth is, can you bring home the bacon? What kind of bacon do you bring? And I want to tell you all, especially as there'll be a lot of men, a high percentage here, your personal value is not contingent on that which you earn. You are valuable as a human being at a level of spirit. But in society, but in terms of status, but in terms of standing, but in terms of the quality of woman or friends or lifestyle, everything is hung off on money. And you will be told that. So these disempowered males that are not at work, whose small, medium enterprises are shut, that have the sole, and often the sole, but not exclusively, responsibility of generating earnings for their children and their wives, are sitting at home with their testicles neutered. Snippety, snip, snip, snip. Providers, they are no more. Everything about them has been taken away. If they were hunters, their bow and arrow is gone. This is the situation the control structure with this Plandemic has created. So what do many do? They try to find something that they could A, enjoy, and B, that could deliver some form of upside dividend to bring home some fat for the family in these uncertain times. And when you read the newspaper headlines with these huge swings and everything going down, they fancy themselves. They're smart, they're engineers, they're tech people, they know fools. They think what happens next, and they have become what I would call newbie retail have-a-go hero traders. And you know, the amazing thing is, we will say get educated first and learn to trade and start small, and that the education and the wisdom needs to start coming early. And you need both the theory, then you need the experience of the practical implementing the theory to truly develop trading wisdom. And wisdom is paid for, it can't be bought, and there's a difference there. You can't come and buy it from anyone. I can't put that USB in your head and boot you up to a man of 25 years of experience in a single second. But you will pay for it over time, and you will take your lessons, and it's a journey. But you can survive and even thrive if you have true method, community, and you're not left on your own. And this is not meant to sound like a sales pitch. If you don't like what I do, there's other people. But be very careful. Make sure that they stand up. But the retail trader right now, untrained, is a lamb to the slaughter. So much so that the brokers that aren't allowed to take the other side of your trades often have set up owned separate entities that take and hold the other side of your trades. That is the nature of the game. FXCM was found out to have an offshore company for which certain directors had significant holdings. That was the liquidity provider, aka we'll hold the other end up of your trade, whatever you do. Most people are undercapitalized, oversized, and undertrained to trade in any environment, in any normal, stable environment. They're over-leveraged, even after the leverage cuts that you've faced in the EU. Such is the skill sets required for a normal market. Imagine now these same people entering trading here, and they have a fundamental news. I think that's going to push oil up. I think it'll push it down. That news, and many of you have asked, what's going to happen in the stock market next? I've actively chose to avoid the stock market. It's going to be entirely dependent on news flow. HYG, why am I still in that trade? Because I was early before the volatility came. I will tweet out the picture of the HYG trade where I literally got in millimeters from my stop at its highest third final point. That entry is still in profit even after it's been jacked up some 25%. The difference in learning to trade volatility is you need to be in before the explosion, not after. And this is what's happening on the retail traders. Back to the article. I couldn't help a little bit of a little messianic preach. But you've got to be really careful if you're sitting out there and you're one of the people that thinks you're going to replace your salary. You're going to replace your small business's income with trading. Let me tell you, it ain't so simple. Everybody thinks there's easier money to be made in the field next door. Everything that I've done, I've had to learn to do to a high standard. That is a fact. Dis 'n feit soos 'n koei. That is Afrikaans for it's a fact like a cow. Like a cow standing there, it's a fact. You can touch it, you can kiss its wet nose and spread your COVID virus. It's a physical fact. Okay. He has said the following. People were chasing the news. I've already heard of some horror stories trying to max out the credit card. Oh my God. Indebtedness, bankruptcies, and later, I'm afraid to say, for some of the worst and the weakest of minds, suicides, family divorce, all sorts of financial drama set up by the control structure, made worse by how people are choosing to react. Your entire self-esteem will be tied up in this. And if you blow yourself up financially, you will have neutered in your mind, although it shouldn't be that way, your value as a human being. That is why men commit suicide so often. So we have plus 500 nearly doubled its customer base to almost 200,000 in the first quarter of 2020. Sometimes guys are saying I don't share enough of the links. So let me just put this link in the article of in the tweet flow there, right there, bang she goes, of our best friends at Reuters telling us their revenues jumped six-fold for the quarter to 316.6 million year on year, sending its shares up 10%. In a market that's collapsing, the speculator shovel sellers are pumping. Yes, CMC Markets, yes, owned by Crudis, also a former treasury of Britain's ruling Conservative Party, expects annual revenues for the year ending March 31st to nearly double. So lots of trading activity, lots of people. The big message, don't go bust. You've got to stay in the game. And let me tell you, to enter as a newbie in one of the most extremist market conditions with no trading is certain to be financial suicide for many of you, and will accelerate the downturn and the pain of what's coming. A major warning from the market sniper, the crypto sniper, and the reset sniper. There are traps and ambushes for males trying to substitute for their income who have not been traded in this market. We are specialists in volatility. This is what we do. We've been training for it and trading this way all the way through. We have been awaiting this reset, and we have taken huge amounts in the beginning, and already it has turned and we've had to stand back. and step down. And we've held on to large parts of those profits because we have method, because we have take profits, and we have real structure. And if you want to find out more, mini-series below is totally free. You will never be spammed. I never sold my list to anyone, and I never will. Okay, and there's also book a call over there. Okay, so that deals with the Reuters article and the retail traders being blown up. Let's go back to some of these other interesting and fascinating stories. So how about I just get up Mr. Snowden, and I'm going to read up that quote of his, and I want to give it to you ad verbatim. That is Mr. Rupert, which I'll do next. Let's just do this one. Okay, so here's the article on Mr. Snowden. It seems that coronavirus may be the greatest question of the modern era around civil liberties. Snowden speaking around the right to privacy. Yet no one is asking this question. As authoritarianism spreads, as emergency laws proliferate, as we sacrifice our rights, they are being sacrificed for you. You don't think you are complying. You are already accepting tacitly by your changed behavior, by not revolting right now, by not taking your pitchfork to the streets, by not resisting cops chasing you off park benches when you're sitting for a little bit of a vitamin D after an entire day in your cramped London flat and desperate to maintain your mental sanity against SAD and get some sunshine and work on your health. You are being forbidden from that and arrested for refusing to leave after a second warning. I've watched the YouTube clip, go search on it. Woman arrested on park bench. The slide into a less liberal, and less free world. Remember, liberal has many meanings nowadays. It's been morphed and hijacked. Do you truly believe that when the first wave and then the second wave and the 16th wave of the coronavirus is long forgotten? In other words, expect reruns. Once they've exercised this power and they've got away with it once, it's important that they establish the groove over the masses. Therefore, it will be repeated. You will have rebounds. Note how the stories coming out of South Korea is reinfection, boomerang. Really? How does that happen? Whatever happened to antibodies? Well, we kind of need a narrative to do this all again. We had extensions. South Africa extended by another 14 days. They are enjoying their power. They have seen the compliance. There's been insignificant pushback. They will reassert and test the limit to see how compliant the masses are. So going back to Mr. Snowden's comments, he says, after the 16th wave of the coronavirus is a long forgotten memory, that these capabilities, do you think that these capabilities will not be kept? Is the state going to freely give back these powerful levers that you've allowed them to grab and exercise over you? That these data sets that they will have accumulated, because AI modeling, tracking is going on an absolute cluster bomb level right now. They know where your home is. They've tracked all your devices. They keep cross-referencing them. They're pointing to the same geolocation. They know how much movement you've got. They probably know where you shop. They're getting new bylaws passed in the name of tracking COVID. Apple is working on COVID tracking and Google special apps, etc. Let me tell you, they are escalating the oligarchical, technological, satanic grid over your freedom of movement on a scale that you haven't seen. No matter what is being used, what is being built is the architecture of oppression. Extract from an interview with Snowden. What is being built is the architecture of your oppression right now. Thin edge of the wedge, and they've already been allowed their foot in the door. What say you to that? What say you to that? And more importantly, what are you doing? Because lack of response to that will see it repeated with additional criteria, with additional compliance aspects. Each time they will ask for a little bit more. It is like an Arab auction where someone has bid well below your asking price and you haven't flinched, and they've said, and we want this and we want that, until you respond and say no more. You are in a Dutch auction where the value of freedom you have is diminishing ever faster, and the power of state is escalating to a point where the divergence is so huge. Without a serious response, you are in trouble. And we are a disorganized, decentralized rabble, scattered amongst the geographies without scale. By the time the key fork decision on whether you will take the Bill Gates, suddenly the doctor of the world, eugenist and son of a eugenist, prescribed solution and certified tag, like a tagged fish on your fin that says you took his poison. What is your decision? What is your decision you are advising for your family? If you do not recognize the fork is coming, you will not be ready for it. And if we do not get organized, we will be lambs to the slaughter, because you are in a tunnel, being a slippery slide, super tube tunnel that ends not in a swimming pool, my friend, but in a meat grinder. And you are on track. And if you don't hit one of the side exits and fork yourself, you're ending in the grinder. That's my personal opinion. Okay, let's have a look at some comments, because that's quite a lengthy, impassioned opening statement. So 580 people, that's totally cool. I really appreciate having almost 600 of you on here. We have 245 likes. That represents around 40%. We need to help find others like you in communities and geographies near you. And one of the best ways is to bring them in. So like and share and hit the retweet button for this link. Have you seen the Epoch Times documentary on the CCP virus, Skynet asks? I have not, I'm afraid, Skynet. Although I did watch that Terminator follow-up, which I hadn't seen. The Arthur Hayes article, please, says Mahidi Ibrahim. Let me once again post that. I will refer back to it as well, because we are not done with him. He spoke of the Korean one, so let me repost that. It may have got lost in the volume of chat, which is high and bombastic and active, and we're delighted that you are also engaged. Daniel OJ, thanks for the truth. I'm not sure I know the truth, Daniel. I'm just calling what I see. What is your happy Easter, fella, from the UK? Your input is well received. Yes, thank you for the UK-based support. That's Jason Williamson. Borgers like says he's made big profits with Microsoft. Good. Remember the losses, the money you've made. So it's important, people. You will have a winner and you will feast off that winner whilst ignoring your losers. You need to measure. If that which you seek to improve, you need to measure. An early trader will dine off the highs, the giddy highs of his one winner, and suppress the memories of his three losers that could have actually lost him more money than that great winner. So remember, always, you need to measure that which you seek to improve. You still need method. Because you've had one winner doesn't mean you will continue to win all the time. We harvest in harvest season. There will be rainy, muddy season. There will be sowing season and in trading. And there are surges and rests. Could the bailouts create stimulus which leads to inflation, says John Shaw. That is exactly the plan, I think. So in my worldview, fiat globally, although not all at once, the dollar being the final bastion fiat, will all be largely devalued immensely. And the banks and the insiders, the primary dealers and the central banks backing those commercial banks will dump of fiat and own assets. So that will probably be physical things after all of those things have been pushed right down into the floor in terms of value. So this could be property, this could be physical gold, although, and I need to come back to the physical versus paper gold discussion, and I will do that next after a few more comments. Are you a technical or fundamental trader? I am a fundamental macro worldview surveyor who places his trades technically with a unique and bespoke self-created hunt volatility funnel method that focus specifically on the compression of volatility and the sudden expansion of volatility that leads to disproportionately large rewards being generated from super tight stops that can only exist when a real squeeze has occurred. I trust that answers your question, although you're probably more confused now than you were before your question. So listen to that answer maybe 2 or 3 times and break it down into pieces. They are putting people in asylums in Germany for not respecting the quarantine laws. Any form of imprisonment will do. In fact, associating you with mental disorder is something that I've seen as a meme, not just in Germany, but also in the UK. They just about closed every loony bin in the UK, but they've managed to find some places that were ex-loony bins to do it. So in other words, non-compliance to state is almost tagging you. They've gone on to subtly and this seems quite broad across a number of geographies, to associate it with, we'll put you in loony bins. In other words, having suspicion of state and its motives is insanity itself by implication. Start with a prayer. Now, thank you for yourself, but start with a prayer. Hoko Kamaina. Thank you for that. Now, I want to just say something to the deeply religious. You have to consider something, and this is controversial that I'm going to say. The original texts of Bible were written in Aramaic and Hebrew. They've been translated many times. They've been fiddled with many times in translation. And there is even a worldview that is out that the Newer Testament, which was something that came subsequently a lot later, has been, especially with reference to Revelation texts and many things that come, almost designed by potentially the same people that were planning this global agenda. Who knows? I don't have a view. This is getting a bit ephemeral. Some people will not want this topic to be discussed. But the notion of just sitting back and praying and waiting for a man on a chariot from the sky and a second coming to save you, think about how passive that makes you. Just pray and be good and hope, and your survivor, your savior will come. A rapture from the sky. I would love for someone to step in and do away with all the demons, but think the nature of that programming. Sit back and wait. Pray. How much actively? Now, prayer and thinking and restoring your own mental balance, all very good. Prayer, meditation, all very good. But there's a time when my favorite religious, if there's to be a favorite religious saying, is God helps those who help themselves. Yes. Hello, Francis. I'm so intrigued to know. Can that idiot please stop posting that question? I'm going to block you if you post it again. I'm so bored with that. I'm going to actually remove that idiot. I'm not here to answer questions about favorite movies. And I will block you from this channel because you just post it incessantly. What should we do then? First off, the loans that the Fed. So what should we do then is a good question. Mange Twat. Vickery. First off, the loans that the Fed gave to airlines was a welfare for the rich. Absolutely. So what's happening is bailing out an ETF made up of bad debt, high yield, means the wealthy get to have bank deposits at extremely high interest rates, essentially. They're not bank deposits. They're investments in bad companies that paid high yield for a reason, because they're probably going to fail. In normal environments, never mind extra normal environments, which we're busy about to go into. So what subsequently happens is, by bailing them out, there is no downside. By bailing out an ETF, there is no downside. You are fighting the corrective element of capitalism. It reminds me of that YouTube where the guy said the airlines should be allowed to go bust. What happens is the staff will be re-employed by new owners given a certain time. The banks must be punished and lose money and capital for bad decisions. And the airline owners must lose their equity and debt. And a new operator can be brought in who is leaner and meaner and smarter, or maybe isn't, but will be able to go forward to survive a new normal without the challenges that the previous operator did. Nobody gets carried through the floods. And they are making it sound like, but why should anyone have pain? This is the feminization of democracy. Capitalism is meant to have a culling mechanism. It's designed that way. This notion of when I was watching that CNBC with the billionaire who said the airline should be allowed, why would you want the airlines to go bust? We need airlines. Why would you want this to happen? Because they cocked up and were crap and never planned for this inevitability. And there has to be failure. Why do you, CNBC talking head pig, get to devalue the money in my wallet, in my bank account, and all my other citizen friends by proliferation to specifically give charity to multi-billionaire CEOs who have been buying back their own stock and buying private islands and homes? Why do you get to punish and tax the entire citizenry to give a further wealth surge and bailout to people who are multi-millionaires and billionaires? That is the question. That is indeed the question. So what do we do? Prepare for the fork and decide. Aggregate, talk here in these comments instead of asking what movies. Hey, I'm in this geography. Who wants to prep with me? Who wants to buy a big ass piece of land with some countryside that could do agricultural? Who wants to opt out and build a fence? We need communities. We need options. We need options apart from the solution that is going to be brought to you by the World Health Organization and the World Bank and the IMF. And all these Rockefeller-funded and created organizations. So many people selling their private stacks of gold, buy physical gold. So let's deal with the physical gold and paper gold situation. So the question that no mainstream media outlet is truly dealing with is that when gold fell from $1,701 to $1,400, I think, and 50. Get some charts up here while I'm talking to you, just to make sure I'm there and thereabouts on the facts front. When all of this happened, and the similar event happened for silver in the smackdown, from the better part of at its high. So gold was definitely through the 1700s and collapsed to 1450. And let's get silver up here as he's getting his chart and having a proper check to make sure he's spot on with his numbers. Silver actually fell to a low over here of, believe it or not, this was on Oanda, and the low was $11.64. From over 1950, we had a high of 19.65 to 11. Wow, that's a significant drop. Now, I want to highlight, during this period, I went on and looked for bullion purchasing sites. Physical 1 ounce silver coins and 1 ounce gold coins. You could not buy anywhere near these paper prices. And I'm meaning not closely. I think the very cheapest I found was $18. Most were in the $20. So let's be clear. At the point that the paper metals markets, metals market traded 11.64. That's what you're betting on and trading. Silver's 11.64. Man, I should buy. They push that thing as low as they goddamn like. The stuff then just goes up on premium. It won't sell for much below 20, and most of the stuff is above $20 an ounce. So we actually need a chart that doesn't reflect the fear. No one who has a physical coin is selling at $11. You go on eBay and you're selling your tube of eagles, silver eagles, you're asking 25, 23 plus packaging for legit silver that will be delivered. All the websites backlog our orders 2 weeks minimum, some way beyond, and I expect you'll be messed around. So let's get this straight. You have a paper price of 11 and you can't buy for double that. That's 100% premium. 100% premium. Gentlemen and ladies, the paper price of precious metals has no true meaning, and that is one of the reasons why it started a snapback process, but it still has no true meaning. And everyone says, oh, but I'd have to pay a premium. You're not paying a premium. You're paying the real price. You're paying a real price, and you're comparing it to a fancy speculator's casino fake market that involves no exchange of bullion. No exchange of bullion. COMEX does not have bullion. The London bullion market had to send bars to New York for the minute amount of contracts that actually had delivery, for which they still could not fulfill. This is not a price for precious metals. The price, the only price, the chart I want on TradingView is the biggest, best value physical coin delivery with delivery charge insured for my signature at a door anywhere in the world. That is the price of gold and silver, people. Forget this punter's derivative. This chart I'm looking at right freaking now is a punter's derivative. Never say the word premium. A discount for having a speculator's piece of paper. That's what's happened. And you will be settled in speculator cash that will be devalued away and will be everything. Ponzi that exists about this system. The price of gold and silver is the cost to physically purchase and have delivered to you 1 ounce of gold or silver in a recognized, non-fake, fully tested format. And I've sat with a 75,000 euro machine that points at a coin and run it, and it must say 99.99 AU. And I've tested it, and I've seen when things are nickel, I've seen when other things are in it, and that is the product. And that, my friends, is not trading $15.40 on silver. And I can tell you, it is not trading at the current horseshit paper price of 1683. No. And it is going to go immensely higher. And that is the content, some of what Arthur Hayes is saying in his blog. Gold, physical scarcity. Gold has no widespread. One of the great fictions that he has, so I'm referring back now to Arthur's blog, which I've suggested you all follow. Gold has no widespread industrial use. This is the fiction that he says is going to blow up. Remember the US dollar and the violence? We're going to the next one. The gold fiction. Physical gold equals fiction plus physical scarcity. Gold has no widespread industrial use case. It's just a shiny, physical, scarce, malleable, and has captured human attention for millennia. Therefore, it actually does have value. So he is saying this whole notion of gold not having a real use case and not therefore having value is a fiction. It has real value and it has existed for millennia, and I agree with that. And in some of the same ways, he rolls into the fact that by Bitcoin being, and here's a little caveat I want to add that he hasn't added to his blog that I think is missing. So I always have my own opinions, and I'm always not quite happy, and I always like accuracy. And I always look for where's the leak. When he refers to Bitcoin and the 21 million limit, I will highlight that digital forks that led to the creation of Bitcoin Cash and their limit were the very, people will say they're not similar, but with a certain degree of common characteristics with minor tweaks in block size, let's not get into that mining hole. And the subsequent fork of that one, BSV, is actually a proliferation of something of a fairly similar ilk. And you should see it as you see quantitative easing. You should view it through the spectacle. And I did a video in 2016 on this point, and you will see this visited again. If they get everyone believing in digitalized currencies, they will pull the same quantitative easing trick of devaluation, because the game of the control structure is you're never to have your own money. They're always to control it, and it is always to strip you of your wealth and keep power over you by putting you on the wrong side of a compound interest equation and rental extracting from you, which is why they'll take you out of the property. That's why they'll have you always using debt and borrowing in debt and creating ever bigger booms and busts that increase volatility in the system rather than stabilizing, all in the name of we're trying to bring stability. And they will always put you in an inflationary environment, which means they are always expanding the monetary supply, which gives them the power to divert money into black hole, dark state objects, levers of power that they will create and fund at your expense while diluting you. That is, ladies and gentlemen, the economic game plan of power summarized. Compound interest, inflationary and deflationary spikes, bracket creep into higher tax reigns by the devaluation of currency. And the game will just change in name and nature, and you'll be told all about the new virtues and how they aren't the same, only to find the new boss is same as the old boss in time. And that, my friend, is a trick that I would stand a small bit aside from Arthur in terms of that. The proliferation of cryptos, if it suddenly becomes the new thing, will be such, as soon as huge demand of trillions starts pouring out of fiat into the blockchain sphere, recognize, whilst initially you'll have price runs, watch how quickly proliferation of new supplies will expand to take in that fiat and thereby cap some of that growth rate. If you're not early, you will end up being late, and then you will find there is great proliferation to absorb the sudden demand. Yeah. Okay. And what else did he say that was really interesting? Before I go on to that, he does also subscribe what looks like to the dollar milkshake theory, that eventually debt and the debt system will see the dollar reassert to the upside. And that is part of the problem. Other major nations can only proliferate their own currency, and there are great deals of indebtedness outside of America. So he says, that summarizes how I see events playing out over the decade. I have no idea on timing, but the strong USD will break the back of the global economy and force a reset. The question is, what's new? What will the system like? Look into my portfolio and see my soul. Long the USD CNH, and he's using options for, and I don't encourage you, if you're not trained, to use options, but it will express the view. He's taking 2-year calls at the 8 strike level. So you'll know that the dollar to the CNH is trading below 8. So he goes into the money when it goes above 8. And he also says long USD KRW, Korean won, 1 year calls at 1600 level. And you'll probably, if you check the chart, see that we're in the low 1200s. So he sees a big loss of value to the Korean won. He only goes into the money at the 1600 level. He's also long emerging markets debt spreads. No, he says, I don't have this one on yet, but I'm waiting for my levels and the rebound to put it on. So that is a couple of trade ideas that are of an FX nature that point to a dollar milkshake theory view and stress, like I have said. And by the way, this is the first time I'm seeing this blog was printed just recently. It was printed, I'll get the date at the top here. I think it was in the last day or two. 9th of April. 9th of April. This man is complying with views we have expressed for 2 years plus. So trust me, we're original on this. I've seen Raoul and other people with charts suddenly coming out, tweeting out my macro charts that I'd shared previously showing, hey, isn't this a structure and a setup? So other people are coming to the Korean won and the Asian stress. And I've shown a great debt chart, which I'll post out now, in fact, on my Twitter. If you aren't following at the Market Sniper, please do, I suggest. I will post a chart for you, and it will highlight the extremity of the Southeast Asian debt in dollars. So this is a chart of M2, money supply, which is a measure of all cash, electronic banking, money, various forms of money. There's a number of ways that these things are done. And that money is very disproportionately, when looked at in dollars terms, very, very high in Southeast Asian currencies. In other words, they've printed so much of their currency, when valued in dollars, their debt levels as a proportion to their GDP are disproportionately high. How do we correct that? Well, if they relatively devalue the Korean won, the Chinese yuan immensely, their dollar denominated, the dollar value of that debt will drop and fall in line with other central banking cartel players. And that is something that you have to think about. And that is a trade of great significance to us that us in the community will not be missing, in our view. Anyway, so that's Arthur. Any comments? What do you guys have to say on that in terms of the Korean won trade and gold? Let's have a little look again at everything that's going on while I just dig out that chart. There we go. So I'm tweeting out the Asian dollar denominated M2 debt right this second, and why we are USD KRW. This is going to affect the Hong Kong dollar as well. Most pegs to the dollar will fail, guys. Most pegs, I would say all pegs to the dollar, almost. You know, the Saudi Rial, all of them. Most pegs to the dollar will fail as a result of this super spike in debt and dollar requirements. In here, CNH, there you go. And I'm sending that out right now. If you want to see that chart, go to the Twitter stream. Follow the Crypto Sniper, as well as the Reset Sniper, and you will get that. Darth Cohn says, I should start a podcast. Raptor Trading, thanks for the retweet. Darth Cohn, thanks for the retweet. Let's see your comments, and then I'm going to roll into Johan Rupert, and then I'm going to call time. I do trade options, but I am familiar with options. How much money would I need to trade the USD? Too much. The margin requirements on the Korean won are high on IG index. It is available on to all non-Americans. IG is in America, but they don't offer it in America. You would probably need an IB interactive brokerage account, and very, very high. I'm talking like maybe 7 digits in the States to trade it. So Skynet says something that's very, very valid. Korea seems to be a very high-tech nation with a complex economy. Very bright, very intelligent, probably one of the most intelligent nations in the world, very well educated. They have Samsung, Hyundai, Kia. These are not, this is not an emerging FX play where there's just complete corruption and devastation and nonsense people. But the problem they have is they sit between China. Their relationship with Japan is decaying immensely. They no longer have intelligence sharing, right? So they're losing their way with the Japanese. They have a lot of Chinese people do have outlets through Korea. So it is almost like a mini capitalistic society that is a Chinese proxy, but a smart capitalistic version of it. The problem they have is they provide a lot of consumer electronics, but they need to buy in a lot of things. They have a high debt at the moment, unfortunately. And there will probably be a narrative. We don't know the reason why, the full reason why. It might just be, it's just their turn and all the currencies are failing against the Korean won and there'll be nothing specific to Korea. Or there's going to be something specific to the Asian nations, China, Korea, and everything. And it could be this M2 debt situation. So that tweet has gone out. And I can post the link to that tweet if it's gone out right now. And if I can grab it, someone will grab the link. One of my community guys, just grab the tweet link and post it in the chat, will you? Otherwise, I get distracted and it's irritating for people watching if I'm looking on the screen to try to find things. Okay, 643 of you are on, 335 likes. Thank you for the share. Buy a coffee mug. Training warning: trading is addictive and adverse to your health potentially, particularly newbie retail traders with no training entering because it's a volatile time and they think they could make easy, fast gains without any problem. And in fact, the pros that are waiting for this time are waiting for them to come and be liquidity providers for them and scoop up all their cash as they are underfunded, undercapitalized for the scale of the moves. And the amount of leverage that they're being afforded. Even in a reduced leverage environment, the volatility is such that there's plenty potential for small traders to be absolutely cleared out. Please be careful. Take training. Take it seriously. Trade super small. The game is getting into the trade prior to the expansion in the volatility. That gives you the tight risk and the expanded reward. Our entire method is based upon some of these cornerstone principles. Please make sniper hoodies, says Mitch S. He would buy a hoodie. Okay, we'll look into that. We'll also get some more catchphrases and other things coming in time. I mean, this is just a bit of fun, the merch stuff. It's all, we only want good quality stuff, so maybe it's a bit more than normal, but it's, as I say, you do it if you want to do it. If you want to support the channel, we appreciate it. You have something small that's physical that reminds you of us. We appreciate it. You guys asked for this. It's not my game, but we'll always find the best provider that's really reliable, and they'll print them up and get them done, and they'll be good quality. I will buy a hoodie. Me too, says Mekong Tropical Farm. Okay, thank you for that feedback. We'll look into it if there's anything else you like. Craig Neve, Market Sniper caps. Links for the merch, they should be appearing below. Maybe Declan or one of the guys that are so tech savvy will spot it and post it for us. Should people continue paying down debts, credit card, mortgage, etc.? So here's the thing about debt relief. Debt relief will only come to the control structure's key friends. You should avoid being held. So this is what's happened. I have a car dealer friend, COVID-19. His banks have said to him, you cannot pay on your overdraft, mortgage, finance, etc. for this period, but we're giving it to you. You know, we want to be your friend. COVID is hard. No one's doing business. You shut down, etc., etc., etc. All these things have happened. But we do have to charge interest. There will be penalty interest. And in actual fact, not paying could lead to impairment credits, but there may be a lot of people that will be in that situation. But we're going to need to do it anyway. But we won't prosecute, we won't commence prosecution. So in other words, they're doing everything they would normally do, because they normally give you 3 months leeway before they call the lawyers in, and you have to get a certain amount in arrears. So all they're doing is letting you consume that fat. In actual fact, compound interest is going to apply, and these guys aren't paying what the central bank rates are. They're paying 16, 17, 10, 12%. So the banks are making money and not trapping you, and will probably own all your stock if you go under. So getting out of debt and getting cash flow positive is one of the most useful things you can do. Get out of debt, get cash flow positive. And then get into debt if you're buying at the bottom of the market a block of flats that rental yielding. Expect a wealth tax. I've covered this in other streams. That's okay to get debt against the property asset, providing you own title fully and you are convinced or are reasonably secured on being able to get income out of that, and recognize the ability for private people to be landlords may be getting closed. I am cautious on this one. And then start purchasing silver ounces each day. Do you think Bitcoin will breach its 3K lows? So crypto question. Let's talk a crypto question and talk about Bitcoin. So what happened with Bitcoin in its spill is very similar to what happened to gold. But the difference is there's a physical price for gold and silver. There isn't a physical price for Bitcoin. Panicked people will sell, and Bitcoin is electronic. So unfortunately, it was a true reflection of the Bitcoin price electronically, where it wasn't a true reflection of the gold and silver price. So gold and silver's physicality has led to, and I'm using this word a lot, a forking of reality versus synthetic electronic on gold. Bitcoin is synthetic, decentralized electronic money. There isn't a reality beyond it. And another key point is that you will have people, good money chasing after bad. When people hit pain, they sell highly liquid things to hang on to bad illiquid things. If you've overpaid at the top of the market in 2019 and bought yourself $1 million home with a 90% loan, and you put 10% down, and you have your wife, your children, 3 of them, or 2.2 of them, and you have a Bitcoin and gold and silver, and you have stocks and mutual funds, and a whole bunch of debt on the house and on your car and many other things. Suddenly the market pukes. Nobody wants to buy your second-hand car. You just bought it new 18 months ago, but no one's going to give you 50% for it right now. They all need cash just like you. So you can try sell your second-hand car. It's a depreciating asset. You'll get 50% for it, and you still need to get around. No one wants to buy your house, and no one's going to buy it quickly, and everyone's going to gouge your eyes out for it. They'll pay 60% of what you paid. That means you can't sell it, even if you're forced to sell it, because you'd have to pay in to leave, or you're going to be devastated and blacklisted, bankrupted, etc. by your bank. So what do you end up doing? You're a forced seller of your Bitcoin and your physical gold and silver. You're a forced seller because you can't look your wife in the eyes and say, honey, we've got to move into the street and live next to the dustbins, and the kids are going to have to cuddle up with us on a blanket right there, because it's a bad time to sell Bitcoin. And trust me, it's a really good asset. And physical gold and silver will moon. We really just have to see this out, Look, we'll get rained on while we're sleeping. A tramp or two might urinate on us. But, the house and the car really have to go, and we get bankrupt. We've got to, in fact, we sell all of that stuff. We take huge, huge losses. We no longer have shelter. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But the gold and the Bitcoin's got to stay. You aren't going to sell that narrative, and you aren't going to live that narrative. So what actually happens is, in this crisis, everything where there's leverage gets hunted down. Your property, your car with the 7-year balloon payment on it, all of that gets hunted down. And you can't sell them because they're all deep underwater. So you sell good to fund bad. It's like the newbie retail trader that has 4 bleeding losing trades that he doesn't want to close, that keep getting worse, and 2 or 3 winners, and keeps closing the winners and locking in small amounts of gains, which could have gone and grown much bigger, to fund his big-ass bleeding loss that just keeps getting worse. That's psychologically what people do because they can't afford to take the losing trade. You can't afford to sell the house that's underwater. You can't afford to sell the car that's underwater. You're hoping for the rebound. You're left hoping for the rebound and the reflation. Come on, Fed, come and reflate this thing back up for me. They did it last time, guys. This is the real reset. I said many times, '08 was the tremor. '08 is the tremor. This is the real set because the signs are there. The mark of the beast, the skin tag, the certificate, the plandemics, the tagging of humanity. It's here. This tells me this one's real. This isn't the tremor. '08 was the tremor. The scale of '08 made you think it was the main event. That wasn't the main event. That was the drill test and the initial concrete slab laying for this architecture of oppression they are lowering down over you. That is my take. Buy food, well, yeah, it's a depreciating asset unless it's long life, but it's pretty practical. Let the medical aids take it up with the real people that are screwing us. Hello, Francis from Wales, just seen live stream. Hello, Martin. Good luck in Wales. Good to hear the Welsh community well supported here. Should I refinance my student loan with the low interest rates? Any debt that you have, get it on the lowest interest rates that is humanly possible if there is options to reduce the amount that you are being usury extracted. And also seek to pay as much capital off as quickly as possible and get cash flow positive and start accumulating non-depreciating assets such as physical gold and silver and potentially in time. So the question started on Bitcoin, which I never finished answering. We will have another downturn, in my opinion. The full economic blowback of this, we're still in phase 1 of a phase 5 rollout for me. The step 2, this is we're in the little rally period, phase 1. It's like an Elliott wave, huge first pandemic strike. You're in the little rally QE period where they've announced $2.3, got a little bit weak. Some of the FX emergings are getting a bit of recovery. Stock market had a wee bounce. Stage 3 in Elliott wave is the real biggest one, often 61.8% larger plunge than the original first leg. If I'm to describe it to you in a technical analyst's way, the down leg, A, B, B, C, the C, D down leg is the biggest leg, and we are awaiting this. This is the economic crash. This is banker. The banks that are left will get rid of their fiat and own all your hard assets that they take back off of you by legalese, etc., whilst they introduce their UBI and turn you into tenants in your own home. But we need lots to be cleared out. They're going to simplify this world system, my friend. Blame the economy on the immigrants, says somebody, black beans. I've weathered a few housing crises, going to keep paying the death deed until it's paid off or the cops show up. Sigh. What's the future for home contractors? Well, there will be need for builders, guys. Skills are still going to happen. There will be some degree of economic activity. They're going to try to stimulate it. They're going to probably try to stimulate. There might be high density building, a lot of that going on. Prison Planet apartments in close to urban centers with 5G aerials all around them so that you can be densely packed and tracked. So you will have work, definitely. In time, you will have work. But they've stopped work. And the way they do that and the reason they're doing that is to kill SMEs. The big megacorps will soak up all the original SME activity. SMEs have been decimated. They're also some of the biggest employers, so they are making ward of state one of the largest employers of the people. They need your dependency. They need your dependency, fine people. And the way they need to do that is they have to take your income away from you. They have to kill your employers. And how do you do that? You decimate the small and the medium-sized industry. That's it. I'm trying to get the light element a little bit less annoying for you. The sun is going down a little bit. So 694, that's 700 people. The Americans are coming on board. Come on, Americans, we need you. We need you. And the Canadians, and the Canadians, and the South Americans, and the Central Americans. Come on, you guys. Will oil be replaced by lithium energy? Oil at some point, in my view, will in fact rebound and shock people. It's in a falling wedge on a super monthly, but this is in a long time still. It will be beaten around like a football, and due to low economic activity, there's going to be a glut kicking around for a while. So it's going to battle for a long way. Hi from New York, says Blaze. Good man, good man. Good to have you. Head out for the burbs. Get out of the high rise. Can you talk about Japanese yen? Japanese yen, Francis? Yes, I can talk about the Japanese yen. So in these fear periods, I should finish saying what I was saying on Bitcoin. In these fear periods, the liquid Bitcoin will always suffer until all the people have got rid of, all the weak hands have been shaken out. We had a huge puke and a lot of weak hands gone. The open interest on BitMEX fell by 50%. That's everyone just exiting. Slowly it's bleeding back in, but that hurt money can be bled out again, but it will never be to the same scale. It's kind of like when you squeeze that half lemon the first time. So there should be less weak hands shaken out on the second and third squeeze, almost like fracking. It's a diminishing scale game. So eventually the Bitcoin vomits with the fear will get markedly less. I do not see that with the broad economics. The next phase, which will be banker-led and bankruptcies, is going to be far worse. But the scope is those that needed to sell their Bitcoin to shore up their positions, most of them have done that. So the yen has been a bit of a curiosity to many. And once again, I suggest to you, you should look at the history of the Japanese yen versus global currencies. And once again, I will see if I've got a super quick chart that I can share with you on Twitter. If you're not following us on Twitter, do it now. You're getting all these appendages made available for you via the Twitter feed on @the. I'm always the. I'm never just market sniper or crypto sniper. I have to be the. In other words, there is only one. I'm like the New World Order. There must be only one Francis. There must be only one market sniper. The. He has to that it. The big. You can't be big. You have to be that big. Okay. Yeah, being a bit crazy here. Let's get that chart up. So this chart that I'm going to share with you is actually the Japanese yen's performance versus gold, versus the other major currencies. And you will see that in terms of currency destruction, the yen is, and the saving nature of the Japanese has been superior to that of the others around us. So let me just get this right, see if I can get this chart quickly released. XAU JPY. I think it's this one. I have to open it to see. So I'll push this out. Basically, what you'll see is that if you look at the image, yes, this is the one. So if you follow either the market sniper or the crypto sniper, you will see XAU JPY better. Y yen better than other fiats. Y yen better than other fiats. They have a saving culture. And the debt that the Japanese government has created, that has seen them buy most equities and shares, which is part of parcel of some of the what I expect will come. You will see it. So I pushed that out through the tweet feed. So that is the reason on which, and the justification. Remember, it's a log scale, that chart. It's a log scale. They've all lost an immense amount. It's a log scale, and you'll see the relative performance of the yen. Okay, guys, I'm going to check for a final few questions. Oh, I never finished Johan Rupert. Johan Rupert is essentially calling reset and saying the whole world's going to pivot. These guys love to be hind inside smart. They're some of the best informed people. He's being given awards by Henry Kissinger. Believe you me, he has a better idea of how this is likely to go down. I expect just over a dinner with a couple of his mates. Also a good friend of Stanley Druckenmiller, ex-partner of George Soros and a hedge fund manager. They play golf together. He's currently 69. And he says, people speak of this as if it's a blip, but I don't. It's like anything of us. It's not like anything any of us have seen before. He talks about the 82-year-old woman who grew up in the recession, the depression of the 30s, my apologies, that was still saving to a dying day. Such was the nature that she was scarred by debt, a debt-based economy culture. She never got in debt, and she was saving in case of poverty and hunger as a millionaire till 82 in her dying day. She never was not cash positive, and she saved and squirreled away like a hoarder. That is the psychological scarring of living through the depression years. The millennials will be exposed to this. The millennials will be exposed to this, not just the millennials, Generation X like me, and the boomers have got too little left of their life to have learned enough about it and missed the event first time round. Website guy says Kissinger said best depopulation method is injections. Gates 2. They need to get something into your physical system, especially if they can have a trigger that can then turn people off later. So you have to all agree to it, and it takes a while to get something in everybody's system. You can't just inject 7 or 9 billion people simultaneously in 1 second. So you need a ruse, a story, a narrative, a great reason, and a lot of peer pressure so that the crabs self-police each other and insist that everybody is in the same shithole that they're in. And then once they've got it in you, they then need a mechanism whereby they can trigger it. I've often said, if I was poisoning the whole control structure, I'd go quietly around. I wouldn't try shoot. The minute you shoot one of them, they know there's a hunter out there shooting people. They're going to be hunting you. They'll track your devices and everything. You've got to quietly get something in them that lurks in them until you've got that little explosive poison pill in every single one of them. And then you sit with your remote control and you pull the lever, and then they all die simultaneously. That it's no use. You need to have your list. You need to know everyone who's got to be taken down. That's how you would do it. You can't shoot the entire of the Club of Rome, Bilderberg attendees, Tony Blair, Bill Clinton, banking legacy families, all their spawn that will take over and have been trained by their psychopathic fathers. You've got to infiltrate them like the parasitic, embedding infiltrators that they are. And by the way, if you never saw this clip, and I'm getting slightly off topic here, but this was an excellent, excellent clip. The questions that haven't been asked about the entire Epstein story, that this guy, I have to admit, slightly suspicious name, is a Weinstein himself, but he asked very, very good questions that were always due about the whole Epstein tragedy. And he says, why was no one asking? This guy's never been a hedge fund manager. Where's his trades? Who held the other side of his trades? Who's backing him? Lots of logical questions about this. What's actually going on? Why is there no following up questions? Where's Ghislaine Maxwell? Why don't you just track her? Why hasn't she been brought in? Who provided this money? Why all these people all flying to a local island? This guy was a bit of a playboy. Let me just retweet this right now. You should all be following the Market Sniper right now. I'm going to put the Crypto Sniper in there, and I'm going to tag the Market Sniper. You should read this. The simple, basic questions that should be asked. Essentially, people, the only logical conclusion someone can come to is that the entire of America is run by a Mossad, blackmail, pedophilic, child sex control structure that have something on everybody who has power. If they don't absolutely control you, you don't get power. They are in, and I've seen everything that links Trudeau's in Canada, all the people that are in power. Yes, I'm afraid that includes Trump. You'll always get someone, no, Trump's going to do the indictments. He's going to indict all the pedophiles. QAnon. Come on, man. Come on. He got bailed by Chase Manhattan. They carried him through. Chairman was David Rockefeller throughout his casino failings. Come on. What do you think? This is payback time. These guys are all part of the matrix. You are selected, not elected. You don't get in there unless you are controlled. There is a Mossad stroke Zionist intelligence, dark state, permanent government cartel that puts forward these elected puppets that go and do their little turn on the catwalk, supposedly serving you. They never serve you. People in power serve those that gave them the power. That's why it was given to them. When can you wake up to that fact? Do not choose a political champion. There aren't any. They are just different prostitutes selling you the same down the river bullshit. They're selling you all down the river. They never work for you. They've got to go sell to you to work for the people who are giving them the job, that are funding them. There it goes through the crypto sniper. Watch that video with the logical questions. And there is no follow through the mainstream media on the paper price of gold and the fact that you can't buy gold for that price. There is no follow through on the media on Ghislaine Maxwell, the fact that Epstein is clearly an intelligence agent, a provocateur, to have every single major political person in a deeply compromised position so that they can be utterly manipulated. That the money he was provided was given to him, and that it was never really owned to him. He was a playboy living it out here. He was never a talented financier. What utter garbage. It's your media mandarins that tell you that. The guy was an absolute, what's the word? He was a sex fiend, an absolute sex fiend with very little intellectual prowess. He was just a manipulator of people, a pervert, and there to get an intelligent operates, there to get footage of people in compromised positions so that they could then become part and parcel of a government that would be totally malleable to the true dark state agenda. And until you can actually understand that, you are not in the real world. You do not understand the scale of this, and you are part of the problem. And we don't want you in the fork team. Go and get your vaccine. Go and trust that these people that have altars and islands with temples in it that probably do far worse things than just underage children's sex. Go get your vaccine. Go trust the Gates Foundation. We need awake people, and we need to provide an alternative. This is going to get real. This goes beyond finance. This goes beyond trading. That we're fighting for our sanity. We're fighting for a community of the good and the honest. And I can't finish on a more serious note than that. But we have to build our money in the fiat system. We've got to know where they're going because we're playing in their grid. Until we have our own grid, we're playing in their grid. And we need to understand how it works. On that good note, I'm going to sign off. Thank you to the 696 of you that came on. Thank you for sharing this. There's 700 of you, in fact. For the 415 likes, that's a better part of 60%. I truly appreciate that. Thanks for bringing others in. I'm going to end the stream. Think about all these core concepts that I've brought to you. Think about what decisions you're going to make. You might have to have some difficult discussions. Women will react unfavorably because you are triggering them. Some women will. And for the ladies watching, your husbands and boyfriends may do this. So I'm not being genderist here, because it's an uncomfortable conversation. Approach it delicately, but say, where do you stand? Know where you need to make your case for that which you're choosing to do, because you need to prepare now. And the moment for when humanity forks, you've seen blockchains forks, you're about to see a financial system fork where the old part dies and the new gain they're bringing for you is coming. Where does humanity fork? Your fork moment is coming. Do you have the courage to jump out of the slip and slide tube that is washing you down into a mincer machine of blood and human body parts? Are you going to escape the path they have planned for you, the slippery, escalating, speeding up path like that child on the slippery slide that is just going quicker and faster. The turns are coming quicker and faster. It's time to pop out the side, and that fork needs to happen, and you need real viable alternatives, and you're going to need other awake community members to think about it. And I can't be more stringent than that. I can't be stronger than that. Thank you for coming on. Bless you all. Think hard about it. Remember to relax. At the end, this is just a life. You are consciousness inside a physical vessel, experiencing consciousness and an experience. Be good to those around you. Be understanding. Make your plans. Do your damnedest. And at the end of the day, the chips will fall where they lie. Make the best decisions you can. Serve your family as honestly as you can. And then you can always look yourself in the eye. There will be some things that will be greater than all of us, even with the best made plans, but that is not an excuse not to plan and to better position. And even though I haven't nailed the whole Plandemic, there was a Plandemic, I'm very grateful for all the planning I did prior to this event, and I will be glad with all future planning I intend to do, and you will too. Start thinking about these things. You have weekend, you have lockdown time, make good use of it. Until then, a double-headed salute, 2 W bushes to you, straight at you. I don't think I want to use that analogy. Bye and enjoy your weekend.